I'm Jack, and welcome back because today I'm going to give you guys a review for a newly released movie that is set during Christmas, and it's an action thriller, Violent Night. It is directed by Tommy Wirkola, and it stars David Harbour as Santa Claus himself, alongside a cast with Beverly D'Angelo, Alex Hassell, John Leguizamo, and many more. And with that said, let's get started. Violent Night follows Santa Claus as he is trying to do his usual Christmas duty and deliver presents to children and people all over the world. But on this Christmas Eve, an elite team of mercenaries breaks into a family's house and takes them all hostage and trying to steal money from the secret vault, and Santa Claus must show them why Nick is no saint and he must take down these mercenaries. When I watched the trailer for this movie, I was immediately hooked and ready to go see this movie. I love the idea of David Harbour as Santa Claus. I love him as Red Guardian in the MCU, but most importantly, I love him as Hopper on Stranger Things. And so seeing him as Santa Claus, I thought was not something I expected, but I was happy to see that nonetheless. And so you also got David Leitch producing this movie, who's made some amazing action movies with John Wick and Deadpool 2 and even Bullet Train earlier this year. And the idea of this movie sounds very fun, it sounds very exciting, and it was right up my alley, and I was really looking forward to watching it. So now that I had the pleasure to go see Violent Night a couple of nights ago, it truly was a violent night. It is an absolute blast. It's action-packed, it's awesome, it's crazy, it's gruesome, it's everything I expected it to be, and it was a whole lot of fun. David Harbour is fantastic as Santa Claus. There's some neat ideas of a backstory they had there, and so as just how he has a motivation and a reasoning for doing what he does in this movie, and see a much more darker edge to Santa in this movie. And so as John Leguizamo as the villain of this movie, who they dub him as Mr. Scrooge, which I thought was a funny little nod they put there. I really like these two actors in this movie. They were so well cast. Whenever the movie focuses on those two, I was hooked, I was engaged, and they were so great in these roles. And David Harbour is one of my new favorite iterations of Santa Claus in live action, and I really love what they do with him here. The action sequences are gnarly, they're wild, but they are awesome, very well shot, and very well framed. I was able to tell what was going on, and I love that the movie does a good job at utilizing what Santa's able to do. They never try to go into the very predictable route where it's like, you know exactly what Santa's going to do to get himself out of that situation. And there are always a lot of plot twists every now and then with these action sequences where it's like, oh shoot, Santa can't do this. What's he going to do to get out of this one? And I love the answers and the ways they're able to have Santa fight his way through these mercenaries. It's very creative and fun, and there's a lot of nice things to it that make it really fun to watch. And just seeing him beat down on these mercenaries is so satisfying, and it's so fun to watch. They're very well shot, and they're just really well done, and I really like how they're able to pull this off. And just seeing Santa Claus be the protagonist of this movie and beating all of them in all of his unique ways, because they're not fighting like an average Joe. They're fighting Santa Claus, and that was really cool. And the movie, it's very well paced. It was never boring. It never got dull. I was consistently engaged with what was happening throughout this movie. There's heart to be found in this movie, especially with the dynamic between Santa Claus and the girl Trudy. They really are the heart of this movie, where him having a good reason to do this elevates this movie, because it's like this family that Trudy's a part of, they're in a really horrible position. They just had a home invasion. Mercenaries are coming in and they're held at gunpoint, and Santa just can't just do nothing about it. And so he's doing this, and how Trudy communicates with him through walkie-talkie. It reminds me of the dynamic between John McClane and Al in the very first Die Hard movie, with how most of their scenes are through this walkie-talkie they have, and how it's like they're trying to help each other out and get out of this situation. I really like how they do that. There's some heartfelt moments between Santa and Trudy that really put a smile on my face. It has the Christmas spirit that you hope it would, even if it's a very violent action comedy that I do not recommend for your kids to go see. And This movie delivers on the fact that it truly is a violent night. It's really gruesome. There's a lot of moments here that shocked me, and it really goes to very surprising lengths with how far they go with the action and how gory this movie can actually be. This movie is also very funny. There's some really great comedy that get a lot of laughs out of me, whether it's just the jokes that are said or the situations that Santa is put in, and so as just a lot of the situations that these characters are in, and it's very hilarious. There's a lot of great moments here that have some fun to it, and they have humor to lighten up the fact that this can be a really dark movie, and a violent one at the least. John Leguizamo is so great as Jimmy Martinez, who they dub as Mr. Scrooge. There's a great backstory for him that's been established as to why he's this mercenary and this villain who's trying to do all these heinous things in this movie, and so as how that comes into conflict with Santa Claus and his motivation for being there, trying to take out these mercenaries. They have reasons for being here, which I like, so it's not like anybody else could have come in. It's like, no, this has to be dealt with by Santa Claus. And just with all these things playing out, characters have clear motivations that you can understand for better or for worse. But on the other hand, I do think that while I really like John Leguizamo as the villain, the other side villains in this movie felt pretty cartoonish. There's a lot of things that happen to them that feels like it's starting to lose a little bit of that realism and becoming a little too cartoonish, which isn't a big problem, but I could have wanted more development from these villains, and the dialogue could have been better at points. Sometimes there's just too much profanity for the sake of profanity, where it works in some moments, but in others it just feels like, that didn't need to be there, and the movie could have been a little bit shorter. The first couple of minutes do take a bit for this home invasion to get rolling, and then for all the exciting stuff to commence. There is a storyline with the family because they're being held hostage, and outside of Trudy and her mom and dad, I didn't care about the other family members. I love Beverly D'Angelo from National Lampoon fame, but the rest of the family are very rude and very naughty people that I wasn't as invested in them when they were in danger. So that little side plot wasn't quite as investing as watching Santa beat down the bad guys. And so that's one minor issue, but not major. But as a whole, I had a blast with Violent Night. It's gnarly, it's gruesome, it's everything I expected for a movie called Violent Night, and I do not recommend it for kids, but I recommend it for anyone above that because this is a whole lot of fun. I really dug this movie. David Harbour is excellent as Santa Claus, and it's full of great action, excitement, and just everything you'd want from an action comedy with Santa Claus as your lead. So in the end, I'm going to give Violent Night an A-. I can see Violent Night becoming the next Christmas classic up there with the likes of Home Alone and Die Hard. It does feel like a hybrid of both movies, but I can definitely see this being a movie that I could bring myself to watch every Christmas. It's fun. It's everything I was hoping it would be, and I really enjoyed watching this movie. And if David Harbour were to continue making these movies where he plays Santa Claus fighting bad guys, I'd be seated in the theater to go watch them because I had an absolute blast with this one, and I hope you guys will go check it out in the theaters as soon as you can. So yeah, those are my thoughts and my review for Violent Night. What are your thoughts on it? Let me know down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Stay tuned for some upcoming videos I have planned. I have reviews for Andor Season 1, Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery, and The Fablemans coming out to you guys really soon. So hopefully you guys will stay tuned for that. And don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is down below at the bottom of the screen and in the description below. So please go do that while you're at it. And thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button. And stay tuned for more.